Welcome to Mind Meets Body and Soul, a podcast that connects the dots between clinical mental health and spiritual holistic wellness. I'm Heather, a licensed clinical social worker and mental health guru.
And I'm Devon, a Reiki master, spiritual teacher, and lover of all things woo-woo. We're here to discuss various wellness topics, highlighting the connection between the mind, body, and soul.
We'll be offering nuggets of wisdom from each of our fields with the ultimate goal of bridging the gap between our two worlds. Whether you lean more into cognitive psychology
or flow with the woo-woo waters, our intention is to help you prioritize yourself and unlock a fresh perspective to healing, growth, and expansion. We're so excited you're here. Let's jump in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mind Meets Body and Soul. Devon here, coming to you on the day of this recording. It is the new moon in Aquarius. Love a new moon vibe. I'm here with my co-host, Heather. It's so good to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I agree that it is so good to see you and be back to our regularly scheduled recordings. This is fun. I'm feeling excited for today's episode and all of the fun, amazing shares that you have for us.
Thank you. This is a big week. I am back from the jungle and would love to talk a little bit about what came through during that retreat. But before we get there, I also want to acknowledge and celebrate Enlighten and Empower's second birthday. It was just a few days ago. So ringing in 2 years of business and heading into my third year as an entrepreneur.
It's so exciting and such an important thing to celebrate each of these milestones because we spend so much time and energy and invest so much into our relationship with our business, but also into the businesses themselves. So I love that you are celebrating that, and I'm excited for this next trip around the sun. I know you have big things coming, so it's going to be amazing.
Thank you. And I thank you for celebrating with me. As you know, and I posted this to my Instagram page a few days ago. Interestingly enough, I woke up on the birthday of my business and for some reason didn't feel like celebrating. I had a moment of have I done enough? Have I really impacted enough people? I don't know if I'm where I want to be. And coming off of this expansive retreat, in a way, it didn't make sense that I would maybe be feeling that way. But honestly, I feel like this kind of piggybacks off of the conversation that we shared on last week's episode about emotions and how we can use our emotions, once we get past the emotional part and once we ride the wave and we're able to look back and see with clarity what those emotions maybe had to show us. I think it brings up the natural human tendency, beyond just being an entrepreneur, of always wanting to make sure that we are showing up purposefully and powerfully in all that we do. And we have such big hearts to positively impact the world around us that sometimes we can feel like what we've done isn't enough. So in that moment, when I reached out to you and I shared that I wasn't quite feeling so sparkly and happy and celebratory, I really thank you for being that person that I could come to and share that with, and for your input as well.
I get it. I get it wholeheartedly. I think it's a really tough space to be in. And just like we did in last episode, I want to invite you to reframe that just because you're feeling sad, disappointed, bleh, whatever the emotions are. I don't think that's an indicator that you haven't done enough. I think it's actually just an indicator that you also want to do more. So it's holding space for that duality, which we've talked about of okay, I've done all of these amazing things. That's true. And I still want more. And that's okay too.
Very true. And I didn't even think about this. We talked about the alchemy process, or the process of then changing that emotion into a different form. And I didn't realize that was what I had done, because after that conversation with you and reaching out to others in my support system, I went to bed that night with the intention of waking up the next morning with a different mindset. And I did. And I woke up the next morning. I was like, I am ready to celebrate. I'm ready to do something big for this business. It's about me, but it's not about me. It's about this business and the community that I've created and all the people who have joined me in this journey and who are showing up and doing the healing work. And so in that moment, celebrating my business's birthday became so much bigger than just me. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that helped as well too, because in that moment it gave me such a larger purpose, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm happy to share that at the time that this episode airs, just a couple days later, February 22nd, I am co-hosting with somebody I met in the jungle, actually, Enlighten and Empower's second birthday party. It's called The Visionary, and it will include all of my favorite woo-woo things, Reiki, meditation. I have a tarot card reader coming in, and we're having a birthday party.
I love it. I love a birthday party. I love a reason to celebrate. And the second anniversary of your business couldn't be the more perfect thing to celebrate on February 22nd. I see what you're doing there.
I didn't even think about that. I really, truly didn't think about that.
Really?
Wow. No,
Come on, Devon.
I know. It's like my job
Right.
to think about those things. No, just synchronistic as always.
I love that even more then.
Yeah, thank you. So if you're listening to this episode before the birthday party, please join. It is welcome to all. It is a free virtual event. And as I mentioned, it's yes, to ring in the second year of business and all that has come with it, but really also a space to gather as a community. And that's really largely what I want to bring into this conversation as well. But as a community to come together to celebrate 2 years and more of healing and growth, impact, and visionary vibes.
Sounds perfect. It's beautiful. So, in the spirit of all of the things that you're celebrating, and speaking of community, I know last week we just jumped right in and had our conversation on harnessing the power of emotions and sensitivity. We all need to know and want to hear the updates about the jungle experience and how your retreat was.
Oh, Heather, it was the most incredible week. I look back at it now, I'm like, it feels like all just like it was a dream, like the most dreamiest of dreams. And I am itching to get back there, but it was a really, really wonderful week. I remember I texted you midway and I shared with you that in the jungle, I met our next podcast guest, and you were so surprised by the fact that I even had any kind of service.
Right,
Wi-Fi
right.
to be able to text you that. But and there was very little. So that I used that Wi-Fi that I had to text you my excitement for this podcast. But it really was one of the best weeks that I've experienced thus far in my life. We got to get you to a retreat. I got to get every one of our listeners, our community members here to a retreat, because it's just such a special time and place where, of course, depending on what retreat this is, but this was a spiritual entrepreneurship retreat. It brought together, I think, just under 70 people from all across the country, and some even out of country. And most were entrepreneurs, not everybody. And some had also been on their spiritual journey, on the healing journey, and some were fairly new to it. And it was just such a beautiful week of a combination of healing and growth and reflection and vulnerable shares, also paired with how to show up more purposefully in your job as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a parent, as a friend. And so, of course, all my favorite things: yoga, breath work, meditation, ice baths, mixed with also the cultural component of being in the Mayan jungle. So we experienced cacao ceremonies and temazcal ceremonies. And I know that this is just going to kind of like go in one ear out the other for some people, but really just like the most Devon retreat that exists, I think. And it was a really beautiful experience.
I love that it was everything that you thought it would be and more. And I think the thing that I continue to see you sharing on social media and speaking to is like that you all went from these different places and walks of life and left with this sense of like community and togetherness. And it was like you going in solo and then coming out with like this whole tribe of people to bring with you like for the rest
Yeah.
of your life, which is exciting.
It's exactly that. I mean, you bring together 60 plus, maybe friends, maybe total strangers, most total strangers, into a shared space with a shared purpose of healing and growth and expansion and impact. And really in just the few first hours, I had already made really great friends and we experienced so much together so that by the end of the 6 days that I was there and the time that we were heading home then, these were people whom I felt really deeply connected to. And it is that sense of community that I took away probably most impactfully than all. And that's really what I want to get into, especially as we are in this month of February, as it tends to be a month of love and celebrating love and sharing love. And also, of course, on this new moon in Aquarius, this theme of community is just so prevalent. And really, I think is one that's going to carry us into the next few years astrologically. I could get carried away with that. But yes, let's talk cultivating community this episode.
I love that you're bringing this up. It does feel really timely because I always love Valentine's Day. I hate the like hallmarkness of it, but I love talking about love. And I think that's beyond partner relationships. Like, I am so grateful for all of the different relationships that I have in my life. And I think what you're speaking to is just leaning into all different types of relationships. Like, some of my friends are new moms and they've been saying like it takes a village, and I think we everything in life takes a village. Like, at our core foundation, we're social beings as humans, and we need that sense of community. So I think this time of year, especially since that's what this new moon is all about too, is like lean into your community and all the people in your community, like looking to your relationships and this time of year as more than just like partner love. It's like loving on your community and that village and those people that are out there for you.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And like why? We bring in that toddler question, why? And it brings me back to the conversation that we shared last week on emotions and on making sure that we have the safe spaces so that we can safely and comfortably feel and express our emotions. And it's really just as important in this conversation as we're talking about community, it's to instill a sense of safety so that we can be authentically who we want to be, so that we can express ourselves in a way without judgment. I mean, we had across this week in the jungle, we had so many people coming forth and sharing their stories, sharing experiences of adversity and how they navigated it and how they, pushed through and are where they are now. And it was so beautiful to witness, to hold space for, and to partake in that as well. And it really was a testament to the level of safety that we felt in our relationship. So we could start there, at the very basis. We've talked about the chakras, we've talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, at the foundation of our being, we need to feel that safety. And that is what surrounding yourself with the right group of people, surrounding yourself with the support system, with the community, that's what that provides at that foundational level.
I think it's important too to know that you can feel varying levels of that safety and that support from different people in the community. I think a lot of times people think about relationships as like, I'm going to find this person, they're going to be my partner, and they're going to meet all of my needs. And probably not the case. We probably want someone who can meet most of our needs, but that's why we have a whole community. And I think it's important to take inventory of the relationships that you have, and then who and how supports you in what ways. Meaning, like, okay, so I know that I feel safe with this group of people or this person to talk about these things or to lean on them in this way. And then there's other people in my life who I feel safe and supported with this type of stuff that goes on in my life. And I want to invite everyone to explore those different relationships, because you do have a community of people who can offer different things to you. And that's really what can be such a beautiful thing to really celebrate and take away this time of year, especially.
That's a really good point. It makes me think about how we are such multifaceted individuals. And yeah, it's not about just finding that one person or that one group of people and having them be everything for you. There really is power in finding the people whom you can talk the mental health, the healing journey, or the astrology to, or the interest in like sports and pop culture and music too. Yeah, I really love that reminder of finding the different groups within your communities that you can turn to. And again, why? So that we feel like we are well supported, so that we feel like every part of us is well nourished.
Yeah, because those people are giving back to us too, right? Like Brene Brown talks about like our marble jar, and we all have this like emotional jar, or energetically, I'm sure this will actually make sense to you. We all have this marble jar, and some people are takers, that they just come in and they take our marbles and they take. And other people, or those balanced relationships, of course, sometimes they need to take, right? We need to support them, but then also sometimes they show up for us and they give back. And it should be this exchange of energy where we're feeling overall balanced, not like 50-50, not tit for tat, but that we're feeling like there's some ebb and flow. And I think looking to the community widens that net of how we can have our needs met.
We love quoting Brene Brown on this podcast. Yes. Love a good Brene Brown quote, and another great visualization. And yeah, one of the biggest benefits of a supportive community is that give and take and feeling that reciprocal, again, as you said, not always 50-50, but feeling that reciprocal relationship. And that's exactly what was experienced in at this retreat that I was at, where it was like one moment a person might be sharing something really vulnerable, and the community, the group of people would be there holding space, maybe just holding his or her hand or allowing them to share. And something else that you said too on the beauty, the benefit of communities, and you were speaking to some of your friends who are new moms, for example, and how there's that saying, it takes a village. A big benefit that I see with the existence of social media today is our ability to create community and form and join communities like from anywhere in the world. Because yes, there are those like mom groups that exist, the entrepreneur groups that exist. And I know, Heather, that you have your group of therapists that you connect with.
And I think it's important what you're saying. Like, we have these networks for different purposes or different channels or different like various parts of our lives. And I might not go to my friends with like a challenge that I'm having with a client. I might not go to my entrepreneur group with a specific thing, but to have that net of people, I think is so powerful. And taking inventory, again, here I am talking, sounding like a finance person, but like taking inventory of your relationships and your needs, and then making sure that you have community, or if you don't have it, you're building it. I mean, a huge part of my business is like a lot of my marketing I do through supporting other small businesses or through community. And that is just a pillar of growing mindset therapy. So I didn't have that community when I started it. I had to build it, and I'm continuing to build it and investing in those relationships and showing up there. So if anyone is out there listening and doesn't feel like they have that community, maybe start by taking inventory of what you need or what you'd want a community for, and then build it for yourself too, and find that community and find those safe spaces.
That is huge. And before I to speak to that too, I do want to acknowledge and honor you and your business, Growing Mindset Therapy. I have seen from the start of when we connected, you are so great at cultivating community and supporting those, especially small businesses or local businesses around you. And I see your social media presence and how you do create content that speaks to your community at large. So I really appreciate that about you and your business. And certainly leaving this retreat, it got me thinking a lot about this aspect of community, hence why we're speaking about it in the podcast. But I really do feel, and speaking to what you're saying, I really do feel that more than ever, we are desiring community. And it's not like it's brand new. As you say, we are hardwired as social creatures, social beings. Like we really do. Like from the dawn of time, we've been in communities. And I don't know if it's because of like COVID times or because of this, rise in working from home or just being so tech based that we are now starting to come back to the truth that, like, hey, we do need our people. So this invitation through this conversation that we're sharing, and as you just beautifully said, of like form that community, take inventory of what it is that you could or want support in, and then go out and look for it. And I really find that to be a pro of social media these days is the accessibility to community of any form.
There's a literal website called meetups.com where you can go on and find book clubs or trivia nights or retreats and all different kinds of things. Like I do think that's one value that a lot of people grew or realized from a result of having to isolate during the pandemic is that we need people. And if we're not surrounded by people, if we're not feeling supported by people, it's really lonely and it's really hard to continue to do things. It also feels important in this conversation to talk about protecting your energy and setting limits in some of those other relationships that maybe don't serve or support you. So I'll link in the show notes. I wrote an article for the Hoboken Girl a couple of years ago now on it's titled Emotions or Relationships Are Emotional Investments, Allocate Wisely. So I want everyone to kind of think about the relationships in your life, what you need, the relationships that you have, the relationships that serve you and how they serve you, and then the relationships that might not serve you 100% of the time, and just start to allocate your energy accordingly.
This is a really important conversation that we're having. I'm also glad that you brought in that note as well, because in this podcast, I like to think that we make an effort to offer all different sides of a topic that we are bringing forth of, of course, the mind, body, soul connection piece to it too. And what you're saying as relationships being emotional investment, it brings in that intentionality piece for why we seek community and why we find ourselves in the communities or seek the communities that we do, and then how to show up in that community in a way that serves you and serves the highest good of all. And like that could not be a more fitting message for this new moon in Aquarius as we're talking about community.
As you were saying it, I was thinking of the words intentional. And I think that's exactly it, is that we are trying to intentionally foster those relationships, intentionally build that community, intentionally lean into that community, and maybe intentionally lean a little out of some of the other relationships. And if we can just take this intention, which we've been talking about a couple times throughout this year so far, is just take this theme of being intentional into our relationships, I think that they will be so much more fulfilling and rewarding for us than we even realize.
Mm-hmm. And I really love this conversation too, just coming back to the time of year that we're having this conversation in, and how you mentioned too, wanting to kind of reframe the like Valentine's Day, celebrate with your loved one, because it brings me all the way back to our conversation earlier this month on manifestation and how a big part of the manifestation process is that gratitude piece, that abundance piece of noticing all of the abundance that surrounds you. And in this case, it's noticing all of the love that surrounds you. So, especially in a time when that really like highlights a certain kind of love. And for those who are listening who don't feel that they have that certain kind of love in their life, ooh, here comes Heather's therapyism. Zoom out and look to the communities that you have or the communities that you want to become a part of this year, and see the abundance, feel the abundance of love and support that does surround you.
It's big what you just said, and I'm just like marinating on it. And I don't know why it's also making me feel a little grief, like a moment, a flutter of grief. Like it's okay to not have the fulfillment and the satisfaction in every single relationship. But I think what we're saying here is like shine light on the ones that you do have and feel the feelings about the ones that you don't, but also like expand to and feel that gratitude and have those moments of like love for what you do have. And practicing that gratitude here, I think, is a really big piece of being able to lean into what we do have and redirect our attention, shift our focus onto those communities that light us back up.
Yes. And thank you for adding that in. I don't know if there are many conversations that we get through without bringing in that aspect of grief. And it is really, really important too. Again, as we're in this month with so much being highlighted on love, it does also bring up a lot of feelings of grief. And we can't, we can't escape that, and we don't want to. So thank you, Heather, for that reminder. And like, what more important time to lean on the support that you do have or that you can find during these hard times. And like, that's what you, Heather, and Growing Mindset Therapy is here for. That's what I and Enlighten and Empower is here for, offering truly anybody who needs and wants that support, that community, to come on in. Doors are open. We're here. We would love to support and guide you along this messy human journey, because we both know firsthand, and this retreat experience really solidified that too. The power of community is so invaluable.
So invaluable, and creates that it meets that need, like you said way earlier, of safety. I think there's few things that can feel better than a safe community and a supportive community. So I really do think that this is such a timely episode, and I hope our listeners think so too.
That is my hope too. And it really does set us up. I'm so excited to bring in my first jungle friend to this podcast. He'll be joining us next week. And his story and his business, what he's bringing forth to the world, I think it'll just like really bring this conversation full circle. And we'll, as per usual, we'll see all of the connections and the tie-ins there.
Well, I'm very excited to meet your first jungle friend. And as we are wrapping up this episode, I want to just thank you for sharing about your experience. It was really fun to hear about. I love that we were able to turn it into such a wonderful episode. But before we end, Devon, I think it's your week to look up at your vision board and share with us what it is that is calling out to you today.
It's really interesting because when I created my vision, we're having trouble talking today. When I created my vision board, I purposely set it in 4 different sections. And the top section was my intention for community, the community that I was looking to cultivate and foster. And so I have this one quote here Oh, and of course, there's a rainbow on it too, but it says, "Your people will find you."
Mm.
And I think that that is just such a nurturing reminder, especially for those who maybe don't feel that they have their community right now, is just taking on that that mindset. Your people will find you. And especially in this day and age, as we talked about with technology, there is so much more accessibility to those communities that you're seeking. You don't have to go deep in the Mayan jungle to find them. Though if you want to, I'm
Mm.
here. I'll take you with me. But yes, your people will find you.
I love that. No, I think that's a beautiful way to leave our audience. And again, thank you. I'm excited for all of the exciting, fun things you have to come and for our first jungle guest, our second guest of this year, and all good things coming. Thank you, Devon.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode. And speaking of community, Enlighten and Empower's second birthday party, February 22nd. Can't wait to see you there. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Bye. We are so glad that you took the time to share this space with us. We'll be releasing new episodes of Mind Meets Body and Soul every Tuesday, so be sure to give us a follow and share this podcast with those you love.
To connect with us and join our communities, head to the show notes where you'll find our contact information and individual websites. Until next week, stay grounded, keep growing, and trust that everything you seek is unfolding for you.